Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Inflation is happening right now. Costs of goods and services is going up, and that means the purchasing power of your dollar is going down. So that literally means the cash you keep on hand, the cash you keep in a savings account at your local credit union or an online banking institution earning just a fraction of a percent is actually costing you money. As inflation is hovering around 5.5%, there's simply no way for your savings account to keep up. So in a way, you can look at it as this money that you're keeping in cash is losing value at a rate of about 5%. Now, this really isn't all that surprising. As we know, the government has kept interest rates purposefully low for quite some time now. So we know that putting our money in cash and cash-like investments isn't really a good investment after all. Like, keeping your money in cash is not a great way to grow your net worth. If you were to stow away $500 a month into a savings account for your entire working career, say 40 years, you would end up with a grand total of $265,000, assuming you earned 0.5% on interest, which is much higher than today's rates. And that's not impressive, as $240,000 of this is what you alone contributed. But then you have the problem that $265,000 today is nothing like $265,000 from 40 years ago in terms of what it can buy. For instance, $265,000 back in 1981 is the equivalent of roughly $800,000 today. So inflation is a real concern, especially now as inflation rates are continuing to grow. Because no one wants to lose money or have their money lose value. Where can you put your money instead? Stocks are a great option. When you buy stocks, you aren't simply buying 3 letters with an arbitrary value attached to them. You are buying companies that produce goods and provide services, companies that add value through these goods and services. As inflation happens, it's important to remember it's not just you who's facing higher costs. So too are these companies. But it's important to remember that companies are in business to turn a profit. So as they face higher costs, they in turn will raise the prices of their goods and their services. They're not just going to absorb the higher costs out of the goodness of their heart. Companies don't do that. But this is good for you as an investor. This means the company continues to turn a profit, and they pass these profits along to their investors in the form of higher share prices or dividends or a combination of the two. Also, we're in a kind of precarious situation at the moment, whereas much of the price increases are being driven by supply chain shortages and bottlenecks as our nation and nations around the world work to return to operating at full capacity after massive and prolonged shutdowns. And while the vast majority of industries are still experiencing great stress from these supply chain shortages, some industries have seen improvement. But the demand for their products still remains high, and consumers are willing to pay the higher cost. So when given the option and the ability to lower their cost, many companies haven't done that. They've left their products at that new higher rate. Not great for consumers, but great for investors. This means that these companies are more profitable now than ever. And again, this will be reflected in a higher stock price over time. Housing is another great investment during periods of inflation. Typically, home values increase anywhere from 3 to 4% on any given year. However, from 2020 to 2021, home prices across the nation jumped an average of 13%. Now, of course, this astounding jump in prices is not something that we can anticipate continuing going forward. But historically speaking, housing has tended to increase at the same rate or even beat inflation. So that does mean that it's a good place to park your dollars. And housing is a leveraged asset, meaning that you can put just a small percentage down and simply borrow the rest, typically from a bank. So this means when it does increase in value, you have the opportunity to increase your return at a more exponential rate rather than on a dollar for dollar basis, because you're borrowing someone else's money to take advantage of a more expensive asset than you otherwise could afford. Now, of course, you still want to be careful when it comes to loans and borrowing money. You never want to overextend yourself. So if you are interested in investing in properties, you want to make sure you have an appropriate down payment. And also you want to make sure that you have a good cash buffer to weather the turbulent times. Because if the last 2 years taught us anything, it's that life and finances are unpredictable. Paychecks are not guaranteed, so you don't want to go getting yourself into hot water. The whole goal is to keep your money growing, keep your money invested so that it can hopefully keep growing at a rate that it outpaces inflation. Because if your money isn't outpacing inflation, you're actually losing money. You are losing buying power. Now, you don't want to go on taking more risk than you're comfortable with in an effort to simply chase higher returns. You can't leave it all in cash, but don't go betting it all either. You have to find a happy medium. But with that said, it is still important to have an emergency fund. These are turbulent times, and you do want to have enough cash on hand to weather the storm. Keep it invested in a high yield savings account, and then invest the rest. You can't leave it sitting in cash. That's just going to serve to hurt your future self. So what are you guys doing during these times? Where are you putting your money? What have you found to be the best investments? Personally, I like to keep my money in stocks. That has typically proven to be a really great performing asset for many, many decades. So that's where I like to put a lot of my investing dollars. Let me know what you guys like to do in the comments down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing, as it really does help the channel. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Bye. But as these companies, that's not where I wanted to go with that at all. It's not something that we can anticipate. Borrow the West. Thank you. You facing cost. What the heck? Or want their is not a great investment. Oh, I was so close. As inflation happens, it's a wow. Okay. But it's go to the other extreme, what the heck? Borrowing money. Sure. Oh, it is recording. My bad.